Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedom and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties education and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country. In the courtrooms of America, Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedom.
Liberty Counsel files two important amicus briefs at the United States Supreme Court in defense of marriage as the union of one man and one woman. I am Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel. Joining me is Matt Barber, vice president of Liberty Counsel Action. Matt, Liberty Counsel filed two briefs, one with regards to the Federal Defense of Marriage Act that says for federal purposes marriage is the union of one man and one woman, and the other in defense of Proposition 8 out in California, that was the state constitutional marriage amendment that also said marriage is the union of one man and one woman. Both of those cases are before the U.S. Supreme Court. Both will be argued in April, and both will likely be decided sometime at the end of June.
Yeah, on the Prop 8 case, we're getting into the fact that as the United States Supreme Court has already ruled, Matt, and a lot of people don't even realize this, the United States Supreme Court has spoken, not directly, but on the issue of marriage in Baker v. Nelson. It said that there is no federal right for a same-sex couple to marry, and just as we've pointed out in our press release and elsewhere, in our briefs, a common sense read of the United States Constitution and a simple understanding of history and how the founders viewed what the traditional values model of human sexuality is, says that the notion of same-sex marriage would have been absurd to the framers of the United States Constitution, much less considered a constitutional right.
Well, that's why, for example, if you go to the Constitution, you don't find the right to life in it, per se. Yeah. You do in the Declaration of Independence. We are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, among which are life. The reason why some of those things are not explicitly stated, that their marriage is the union of one man and one woman, or that you have a right to life in the Constitution, is because of what the Declaration says. These are unalienable, self-evident rights. In other words, any idiot ought to get this. Yeah. It's self-evident. We don't have to say that you have a right to life. It is self-evident. It is part of the laws of nature and of nature's God, our Creator, who endowed us with those rights. We don't have to explicitly state them. The Constitution, on the other hand, certainly doesn't give a right to same-sex marriage. There's no place in the Constitution that you could stretch it to mean same-sex marriage. At the time of the founding of this country, obviously no one even thought about the fact that two men and two women would be wanting to marry. It just is absurd to even think about that. It has always, from that moment on, been considered a crime against nature. Again, you go back to nature. If you go back to what they called these acts of same-sex is crimes against nature. Nature being just the natural law, the revealed law plus the natural law that we actually are able to see and understand that governs the universe, that governs our interaction. Yeah,
the aberrant sexual behavior, the twisting of normal human sexuality that would be involved in order to consummate a so-called same-sex marriage in all 13 of the original colonies was a crime, and in many of the colonies, a crime punishable by death. Now, do we advocate that? No, of course. But the point is that was the mindset of the framers as they drafted the Constitution. There's no way that they would have ever intended that they would twist and deconstruct the fundamental cornerstone institution of marriage in order to put the government's official stamp of approval on a crime against nature.
Well, then somebody says, the only way for you to come to this idea is you get 5 people just as a political vote that just completely ignore the Constitution. So that is concerning that we actually have 9 justices that will decide this issue, both in the Federal Defense of Marriage Act and the Proposition 8 case, because all you need is 5, and then those 5, all of a sudden their opinion becomes, quote, the law of the land. That's not the way it should be. It's not the way it was set up to be. But that's, in fact, what ultimately happens. So that is a concern that we're going to have the very foundation of family, the definition of marriage, that is affirmed through centuries and throughout time and part of the natural and revealed law in the hands of 5 individuals. If they deconstruct it and say it's okay to have marriages between a man and a man and a woman, that has huge consequences. I wrote a book called Same-Sex Marriage, Putting Every Household at Risk. And the question somebody asked is, well, I know some people who are gay or lesbian and they're nice people. Why don't we want to just get government out of that and just let them marry? Here's what it actually says as a policy matter. You're actually bringing the government into that, and you're saying, as a policy matter, I'm going to affirm that relationship. And marriage has always been of the highest relationship. Why? It's always been of the highest value. Why? Because it is essential for our society to procreate the next generation and to train boys and girls into productive citizens. We know that children do best when they're raised in a home with mom and dad. If you say that same-sex marriage from a government perspective is okay, then you're saying that as a policy matter, moms and dads are absolutely irrelevant to the well-being of that son or daughter.
Yeah.
And that we know from a sociological and practical sense that that's just simply not true.
This is about children, and children have the right to a mom and a dad. And for the Supreme Court to put its stamp of approval on same-sex marriage in spite of it running counter to the Constitution will hurt children. Which parent, I would ask people to consider which of your parents would have been expendable. Mom, could you have done without her? Dad, not everybody had good, stable households, but those who were raised in a strong home with mom and dad, mom brings something to the table, dad brings something to the table. But this is a bigger assault. Yeah.
And I grew up without a dad. My mom divorced when I was little, and that put a big void in my life. There were certain things and obstacles I had to experience and overcome because I didn't have that father mentor. I have no idea what it's like to have that father mentor. I, sometimes wonder what it would have been like. Doesn't mean everybody's going to turn out bad, but what it does is it leaves a gaping hole. And for example, if you go to any jail, as I've done, and you ask the men that are incarcerated, the young men who are incarcerated for some kind of a violent crime, adolescent or young men in their 20s or even 30s, ask them where their father was when they were growing up, and they will almost to every person, almost 100% will say, I had no father. Well, is there a relationship between that? Yes, there is. We've heard even Obama, when he ran in the first election, talked about the fatherless syndrome. It is a problem. And when you remove father, for example, from the home, that's one thing. Single parenting without father around is one thing. Having 2 women and dad not there compounds the missing gender of father, because not only have you excluded permanently from that son or that daughter the father, but you have skewed the view of the missing gender. Because if you have a single mom raising a boy without the father, you at least have some attraction, some admiration of the father figure, and efforts to put that boy within a realm that he could have good influences. But if you have 2 women, there's going to be an antipathy to that missing gender for a reason. So it not only removes it, but it skews the view of the missing gender in a way that single-sex parenting does not.
Well, Matt, our amicus brief was signed. Obviously, it's central to the case. It's Proposition 8 in California, the law, the amendment defining marriages between a man and a woman. What happens from here, and what do you think the odds are that we get a good ruling on this?
I can't predict on this one on the Supreme Court. I think it's going to be close. And with how Justice Roberts went the wrong way on the Obamacare case, shocking everybody, I really can't trust the justices in terms of which way they're going to go. I know which way some of them are going to go based upon their judicial philosophy, but that means that there's 1 or 2 votes that I don't know which way they're going to go, and it could go either way. I think it's a close case. I encourage you to pray for this decision. It's going to come out sometime in June. We'll keep you informed in it, but this is a huge case. I mean, it could have cataclysmic results in deconstructing family. Beyond that, it'll have a huge impact with respect to the free exercise of religion, with respect to whether or not you can even have a bed and breakfast that does not want to have a same-sex wedding or a union, or whether if you're a wedding photographer, can you refuse to participate in a same-sex ceremony? Those kinds of things and what churches can do will all be in the crosshairs if this case goes the wrong way. Go to Liberty Counsel's website, lc.org. You can ask for my book, Same-Sex Marriage, Putting Every Household at Risk. That's Same-Sex Marriage, Putting Every Household at Risk. Also, we just published through our New Revolution publishers, Dr. Judith Reisman's Stolen Honor book. And I encourage you to get that at lc.org as well. You can call us at 1-800-671-1776 for more information. Remember, Liberty Counsel in your prayers and your financial support.
You have been listening to Faith and Freedom with Liberty Counsel. We hope that we have motivated you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedom. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email updates. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.